I think if you use as your determinant what's most beneficial for the most number of people, then you can come to a decision as to whether it's beneficial or not. But if the way that you decide is, do I like this person, do I trust this person, or do I want to stop this person from having information so that they can't go on, like that sort of thing, then of course it's negative. But when it's neutral, just looking at, should I share this information or not, what's more beneficial for the company, for the individuals involved, what's more beneficial? I think this is the only way to decide. Not is it good or bad, but beneficial in the sense of helping others to do their job and to benefit the company. I think we can't always have wisdom before we make the decision. What we can do is try and remove the ego as much as possible from the decision, and then from a balanced place, I want you to be happy, I don't want you to suffer, what's the decision? But I think that, often there's grey areas, what we call grey areas. It's not black and white, do it, don't do it, but a lot of the decisions are grey. Should I? And in that moment, what helps you is clarity, is clear mind, and not having an agenda, not bringing the history to the table, right? Imagine if you're talking to a department, we won't mention a particular department, but a department which is very difficult and there's no communication, right? So your department, their department, both have a history. Imagine if both departments dropped the history. They said, okay, for today, we're dropping the history and we're just going to speak man to man, person to person, whatever. Wouldn't the conversation be very different than if it's based on a history? When it's based on a history, then it's you did this to us, you didn't do this to us, you did this, you did this. And so the decision is based on what you've done in the past. It would be incredible if you could just bring it into this moment and say, well, here's the problem, let's discuss it, without all this past history. No, but when you're talking department to department, I think what we were talking about the other day about this history, it would be very good to drop the history and just be able to talk department to department. But it's true, when you're talking sales department to customer, and the customer already owes €1 million, and you're calling them and saying, can you buy more? And they're saying, yeah, I can buy more. Give me 500,000. And you say, oh, this is great, I just sold 500,000. But it's not necessarily great for the company. In the end, not necessarily great for you. So, I'm not saying permanently drop all history, but in the sense of if you were talking within the company, department to department, we're only talking about same company, wanting the benefit for the company, but still there's history, isn't there? We have 3 levels of vows: individual, compassion, and tantric. So what we've been talking about is this one, individual vows. I take these vows, or I make this promise, not to kill, not to steal, not to lie, because it's my value. It's what I believe in. It's what I think should be done. And I'm protecting myself from myself because I'm not doing it. So I'm not harming myself. And in the consequence of that is I'm not harming others. That's a byproduct. It's not the purpose. The purpose is to protect me from myself and to protect others from me. So there is a relationship, but basically it's about me. I put myself into this virtuous bubble, I cover myself in this virtuous bubble, and I stay in that bubble trying to do the least possible harm. Okay? Buddha recognized that this is a limitation because it's not active. So at the first level, You're very much trying to protect yourself. So, is that enough? We can ask in society, is that enough? So of course in Buddha's time, people said to Buddha, is that enough? You know, just to protect myself. So then he taught for people with compassion, well, if you have great compassion and the more benefit is to harm, you should harm short term in order to have long-term benefit. But I'm very wary about talking about this because I think, you know, you might go out and murder somebody and say, well, he said, you know. But if you're clear about what you're doing, if you have great compassion and your greater concern is with others and not with yourself, then the greater concern overrides the individual concern. This is when the vows change. And that's when the greater concern is more important. I often give an example of if you could go back in time to 1938, let's say. So 1938, we're sitting in a restaurant in Vienna, right? And there's this very nasty little man, you know, sitting there saying, you will drink your coffee, you know, like this. And he's, but you have clairvoyance, and you're thinking, oh, my goodness, this man is about to do horrendous things, he's about to kill millions, etc., etc., etc. And you have the opportunity to do something about Hitler. This is Hitler sitting next to you. Would you or not? So, on the individual level, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. But if you absolutely knew that the information you have is true, is certain, and that this is the guy who's about to do it, should you do something? So the compassion vows say, if you do not do something, you break your vows. You actually break them by being inactive. What you do has to be appropriate for the situation. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to kill him, but is there something that you can do? So you have to be very active in this and thinking, well, what can I do? How can I do? Which way would I do it? Yeah. So this is much more complicated. And it depends on your wisdom as to how, which way, when, why, what. So I think you can understand why we tend to start with the individual vows. It's much easier to talk about. They're the clean, clear rules. Don't do this. Don't kill, don't steal, don't lie. This is clean, clear. When it gets to the next level, it becomes unclear, more grey. Based on your principles, you have to decide what's beneficial for the most number of beings, not for yourself. And this requires that you also subdue your ego so that you're not thinking, this is good for me. I'm Jewish. I know he hates Jews, therefore I should kill him, which is only about me. But knowing the greater benefit is for all. So this is difficult, but definitely it's been discussed a lot. And it's something that I think humanizes Buddhism, because if we stay at the individual level, you find many, many contradictions in your life.